Hello everyone, welcome to Videoscape's session on how to win subscribers and keep them, the marketing essentials. My name is Natalie Lethbridge from Atonic Digital, and I'm joined today by Adam Cunningham, who is the guru in marketing SVODs and Chief Global Strategist from Allied Global Marketing, and Simon Walker, who is co-founder and CEO of a number of SVODs, including Marquee TV. Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
So today's topic is on how to have winning marketing strategies for SVODs. The first question I have, which everyone's going to be thinking about, is in this COVID world and in this post-COVID world, we've seen acquisition of some SVODs boom by a factor of up to 10 or more, and we've seen phenomenal rises in subscriptions. Now that we're nearing post-COVID, we're looking at retention. So it'd be great to have your key thoughts on what OTT marketeers should focus on now and how, what advice on what works and what you think they should be wary of. Adam, I might address this question to you first. Keys to retaining subscribers.
Yeah, I think the first thing that needs to be addressed is kind of a conformity of nomenclature. So it's one thing to say that acquisition is up, which it is. Really what most streamers are reporting is an increase in free trials. And a cost per subscription, or CPA, SAC, whatever your organization terms it as, is usually going to be defined for us as they've installed, they've registered, they've gotten past their free trial, and now their credit card has been charged. Because it's all well and good to get free trials in, but if they don't actually have, they're not paying for it, then it's not making anybody any money. So that's really the big question now, is not just in terms of retention. Yeah, they've become a paid subscriber, but in that period of the free trial, as everyone has opened it up and expanded it across the board, I would say that's the biggest consideration, is making sure we have a clear definition of what we mean by cost per subscription, and more importantly, getting them out of the free trial, which is increasingly an issue amidst this time.
What's your experience of this on Marquee TV, Simon?
Well, it's a sugar rush at first. It's very, very exciting seeing, just as Adam says, you see the numbers shooting up, but then you sit there and you go, well, hold on, I've got to wait 30 days to know whether I actually feel good about this. And the truth is, if the volume isn't the metric that you're really interested in on the trials. It could be that actually your business looks worse now after this period than it did before, because you might have been, your conversion rate from free trial to pay may have gone down, right, and your conversion rate when people churn out, when they get to the end of their month, may have got worse as well. So actually it's kind of a nerve-wracking experience. It's exciting, but it's nerve-wracking too. So we had, working with the guru, with Adam and his team, we've been really exciting to see the volume, but it was only really a month in, once we were kind of, into late April, that you started to actually see conversions. And the wave of relief you get then as they turn into money is a big deal. So I think, Adam's right. You've got to think about what is your actual metric here, and obviously the metric is paying subscribers, and the free trials. There's so much free stuff out there. That's the other thing to think about, is in our market, Marquee TV is a performing arts streaming service. All the performing arts organizations are shut right now, and a lot of them, as they scrabble around to think of how to keep their audience engaged, the ones, whether they're our partners already or not, a lot of them are feeling the pressure to just stick up a YouTube live stream or a Facebook Live without really thinking through the economics of that and what it does long term to the value of their rights. So, we find ourselves not just competing with free trials of Disney Plus, etc., but our partners kind of going direct to the audience and giving away the product that we charge a subscription for. So it's a particularly confusing but exciting time.
It's indeed, you've mentioned that, and it's true. We've seen the National Theatre go live, and others, and I can understand for the consumer that's confusing. But one of the key things I think you're talking about here is the critical metrics of churn. So what do you think, Adam, is some of the levers that you can pull at this stage, and ultimately Simon as well, to try and mitigate the impact of that churn?
I mean, churn mitigation is entirely influenced mainly upon, from a media standpoint, paid media standpoint, from retention metrics and retention performance. What's key there is we have to have the MarTech visibility on the back end of the website, platform, or apps in order to properly do that. So it's all well and good to say, of all the types of content that people are going to consume on the app, which are the most valuable? If you can't readily answer that question, it's very difficult to know how to pinpoint which audience to focus on for retention. So we do know statistically, whether it's COVID or not, we know that there's a direct correlation with the amount of content that is consumed and then the likelihood or propensity in which to churn. So the more content you get them to watch that they enjoy, the less likely they are to churn out. We know that. But if you don't have the MarTech visibility in place to truly say, well, what is the thing they care most about? Not only does it kind of hurt you in the funnel in the future because you don't know what to produce or to put into your platform, but you also in real time, especially in a time when suddenly streaming services have triple the user base than they did before, all of a sudden you've got all these new people that never considered you. There should be no assumption made that this consumer, this audience, is the same audience that existed before COVID, because for whatever reason they're considering you now but not then. For Marquee, is the Marquee consumer the same consumer as the one that is going to Marquee because they can't go to their local performing arts center? We don't know, and you have to have what we call the consumptive data in order to really say, yeah, you know what, everyone does really care most about opera, and because of the closure of the opera houses, there's continuity there, but we don't know that yet. So the biggest question in churn for us is retention. In order to do retention, you have to have data visibility.
Simon, what's your learning curve on that?
Yeah, no, well, again, I'm going to say this a lot, I think, in this session. Adam's right.
Wait.
That's why he's not here as the expert.
Look, it's you got to get people to use your stuff, right? I mean, Marquee TV, our best salesperson is the app itself, right? So you want people to go in there, and if they love opera, this suddenly for the first time in their lives, they can get it all on their device or their TV at home, right? So for that, if you can get that audience access to the app, it converts, right? And it's fantastic, and they tend to stay, but they need to use it. Right. Mm-hmm. And that's the problem with the free trials and this boom period where, number one, consumers kind of expect to get lots of free stuff. Number two, people are signing up to things that they wouldn't ordinarily sign up for. Oh, performing arts service. Yeah, but, I never really liked the opera. I never really, there are people who are doing it because it's free. And then the trick is to get them using the service. So, and again, that's what the MarTech technology in the back end helps you do. And frankly, we haven't fully optimized yet. The other thing that's kind of interesting in all of this is the length of the free trial, right? So if I've signed up to a service and I know I've got 60 days to decide whether I like it or not, then I tend not to use it, right? If I've got a day or 7 days, then I sign up and I better check it out to decide whether I like it during the free trial. So there's a kind of a slightly counterintuitive thing around the length of the free trial, which sometimes mitigates against people really enjoying and using the content. So one thing that we do, just a practical thing that we do, Natalie, is, again, because we benefit from having partners who are big arts organizations, we'll say, okay, we're going to do a premiere every week. This week it's the Royal Shakespeare Company. It's a watch along with, a new production. And we'll try and drive audiences to something which is almost the opposite of an on-demand moment. It's more like a broadcast network TV appointment to view, because then we've done the best job we possibly can to get someone to experience the platform, and it hooks in the other brands. I mean, we're selling the Royal Shakespeare Company. We're not really selling Marquee TV. We're the aggregator brand for the most amazing performing arts in the world. So the quicker we get people through to experiencing those, the better it is for us in terms of churn.
And I would say, to just a couple onto that, one thing that we have noticed from a data standpoint, which is a really interesting shift as this has continued into the pandemic, is if you think of the two chief concerns amidst the pandemic, one of them, of course, is health, and then the second one, of course, is the economic impact of the pandemic.
Yeah.
Now we are seeing something up to 68% of people stated that their primary concern was one of economics now, less about health, which of course is going to impact, well, can I afford another subscription service?
Right.
And I know we'll talk about the concept of SVOD stacking, but that thing that happened in the beginning, which was like, oh, I got to entertain and home entertainment, it has this big boom. And now people are really, as this continues to go on, people are really saying, how much am I really committing to? And when is my job coming back or what's going on? And that has a serious impact to what we're doing as well.
Well, you make a very good point, actually, the behavioral change. We've had very rapid transformational behavioral change that's favored SVODs. And now coming out of it, what do you think is the sustainable change, and what do you think you're going to have to really work hard to keep? Adam, you've done a lot of work on this behavioral change analysis. You guys have a tracker on that. Do you want to have a couple words on that? We're looking at behavioral shifts under SVODs, and of course we might as well talk about the finite share of wallet and the fact that a service stacking or SVOD stacking. What do you think is going to happen with that?
I think a couple things. Firstly, what's interesting, as of a couple days ago, we started to see data that would indicate as markets are emerging out of lockdown, we're actually seeing streaming and linear consumption stay relatively the same, which is good news for streaming and good news for linear. So we had this concern, obviously, initially you're seeing, streaming's up, day over day, like 73% and I mean, it was crazy numbers in the beginning. And then you saw linear going up like 37, 40, 42%, depending on the market. And as of now, I mean, granted, we're not totally out of the situation by any means, but we haven't seen the strong decrease in Western European or US markets that we suspected, which is interesting. That's the first thing. The second thing is Netflix as the category definer. If you look at core markets, take for instance the US, for example, of the 10 most consumed pieces of content week over week, it's still Netflix. So it's an interesting market. I mean, not everything has been a perfect launch, as we all know. A lot of people have struggled in there, and a lot of people have struggled to make a compelling case for a piece of the share of the wallet and for a share of time amidst the day, when everything now is termed home entertainment because all we do is live at home. Then we have a lot of things competing for our attention, and we've seen some players be very successful with that, and we've seen some other players who you think, my God, the amount of money they're spending, this is going to do gangbusters, and it's actually not, and they're having to retract and change pace, of course.
One of the things that we need to talk about, I guess, is the impact on marketing budgets. We know that marketing budgets are going to be really tight coming out of this, and yet, ironically, paid media is less expensive than it was. And I'm interested in both your perspectives, Adam, because you've had to advise a number of companies on this, and I'm interested in what you think is the right mix at this particular time for spend versus organic, and what you think is some of the sort of key levers that you need to have in your marketing budgets. And Simon, of course, as a niche but very successful SVOD under COVID, where do you think you will be focusing your marketing spend and your resources in the next period of time? Adam, do you want to go first, and then I'll let Simon follow?
Sure. I mean, the truth is we always look at a split between paid, earned, and owned. Earned being anything coming from organic social media, press, partnerships, and then owned things that are coming through the .com and the rest. That ratio is not uniform across any brand, firstly, and it really deals with the brand equity in the first place, because if the brand doesn't mean anything, then you can imagine owned and earned is rough. And if the big question, entertainment, with the supply chain being broken, is there's starting to be less press-worthy new original series getting launched on a lot of these services, simply because there's not new things coming through. So what you're seeing is a lot of like acquisitions of library titles or things from other territories, which are great and interesting and compelling products, but not necessarily press-worthy. So then that kind of decreases earned. So it's a bit tough to say. I think in the beginning of the pandemic, we all saw every single outlets, whether it was the Guardian or the Times or whatever, had their list of like, here's the thing, here's the streamers to watch amidst the pandemic, and here's the way to, and those pieces are slowing down. Those drove a higher piece of earned media then now those pieces have been written by everybody, right? So unless you make it to the streaming recommendation bullet point in the paper on Sunday in the Culture magazine, it's very tough to have, honestly, a strong and compelling argument for earned media. And also amidst, let's be fair, we've never been the most important thing to talk about. And even during the pandemic, we were never the most important thing to talk about. People were just very, very bored. Now people are bored and concerned, and there's a lot of stuff going on in the world that is pressing and filling the newspapers outside of the pandemic, which are obviously all of the riots and the questions around that. So it's hard to market during this time if you don't have something to say that is authentic and relevant within these very important themes that are going on in the world. So this is a very circuitous, almost Kafka-esque answer to say that paid media still dominates and is still incredibly important, because it's very difficult to stand out unless you are a category definer or you're Disney Plus new. It's very difficult to stand out without paying to stand out. And referenced Kafka.
Yeah, look, I'd agree with that. And, let me throw in just another thought, which is a very practical one from our point of view as a founder. I'm out there raising money. And the other thing about the environment right now is you can have fantastic metrics, in your business. So kind of the metrics for the venture are fantastic, but the climate for raising money at the moment is not so fantastic, right? So, one of the dilemmas that we have is, you could slow down your marketing, right, in order to last, 6 months, 12 months until you can raise money in much more attractive circumstances, in theory, to then spend the money marketing where your CPA maybe, 2x what it is today or 3x what it is today.
Very good point.
So, there's a really interesting thing for founders and CEOs where you've just got to think, well, actually, when paid is cheaper, you've got to go big on paid, right? Because it's not going to keep going down. It's going to creep back up.
Of course.
And this is a window in time where it's the perfect experiment. It's the perfect petri dish is a very un-PC thing to say when we're in a pandemic, right? But in terms of kind of experimenting with what works, what doesn't, free trials, 3 months of the price of all of those things, and using paid to really drive the volume so you can properly analyze it, I think that's really important. And we just hope for the best stories we can tell around earned and organic and owned. Our business, we're trying to be a force for good, right? We're trying to, we are oftentimes the only income stream for these arts organizations right now. So we've got a whole story to tell around that, which isn't really about acquisition, it's about brand building. Mm-hmm. And then that sits very nicely alongside the kind of paid marketing that Adam and his team are so good at.
Well, I think one thing to say there, which we haven't touched on, which is with the churn mitigation and the question of the free trials, is a conversation we have with everybody in some capacity around the globe, is the question of transactional versus simply free trial to sub. And the more we can get people into annual subscriptions, obviously people love that, because, or any sort of other, weekend pass, 3-month pass, 6-month pass, 9-month pass, whatever it might be, because number one, it responds to markets or audiences being more sensitive as to the long-term commitments they're making. And secondarily, they bypass the free trial and go directly into a paying customer. And obviously that's better for churn mitigation if I don't have to really worry about you so much until 12 months later. So the transactional model is also a very interesting thing to think through during this time.
Right.
I think that's all we've got time for at the moment. So I wanted to say thank you to both of you. It's been a really interesting session. We could talk about this for hours, but one of the two of the key takeaways I have today is actually you should really look very carefully at your budgets and seize the moment in terms of paid. This is a unique moment, and if you are looking at retaining the gains that you've made over this COVID period, then that is an opportunity that will not necessarily last forever. And I guess the second is to really look at your MarTech and make sure that you have it properly installed and activated, and that you understand how you want to, how you can use it so that you can optimize your ability to actually grow your subscribers. Thank you both very much, and I think this is the end of our session. So thank you to Videoscape as well.
Thank
Bye.
you. Thanks.
Bye.